This is a public service announcement from the Steam Gentlemen. This is a public service announcement from the Steam Gentlemen. Our defense condition is not 3, nor 4, nor 2, nor 1. We have no defense condition, and we will not be taking a defense condition against any peoples whatsoever. We do not kink shame, and we do not go and take a defense condition. That's just the way I wanted to start off the show today. Very important, always to remind us that. But also, just to be completely honest, I was out just the other night with my brother, the three of clubs there, and we were having a great old time. And he got to hear me laugh my ass off when the guy started off with a Holocaust joke. So, you know, there's still room for humor out there, people. I'm just not going defense condition free. That's what we're doing. Just saying. Way to put the joke out there, way to not put the joke out there. It's all in the telling, isn't it? It's all in the telling. It's where you put the words. It's the order of the word, as Bill Burr says, which side you put things on, where we're going as to how it's gonna land. But we are back here. We are in the thick of it. We are in the now, wading through, just keeping our shields up as the culture wars rage. Trying to have a good old time, trying to have fun, and still just trying to enjoy our pop culture. I am Josh, one of your three hosts here, aka the Birdman, and I am joined today on the panel, as always, by my good friend, the three of clubs himself, Rashaun Smith. How we doing this morning?
Wait, it's morning time?
It's morning somewhere.
Way to call your shot.
Yeah, it's morning somewhere, drinking time somewhere, whichever it wants to be, whatever you need it to be.
What do you do? How do you do? I'm doing well, and yourself?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm back in the steam tunnels with the gentlemen, ready to hash out some pop culture and social commentary. It's a good time. I got nothing to complain about. My Pats won this weekend, which makes me happy, even if it, was somewhat. It was the number one scoring offense in the NFL, but the record doesn't exactly show that. So, so happy with that. They were playing in the old school Pat Patriot that I love. So that's good. And good soccer games, all that good stuff. So I'm just in a peppy mood. I'm a peppy little spitfuck, as they said in Zombieland.
A peppy little spitfuck.
That's right.
Why don't you follow that?
That could be so many other things.
That's very true. That's very true. And that's a perfect introduction for my other peppy little spitfuck. In the end, star child himself, Greg DeSense. How we doing?
I am doing all right, and I'm already learning so much. I've heard of a hate fuck, I've heard of a revenge fuck, and now I know about a spit fuck.
The spit fuck. Well,
are you really trying to make people believe you just found out about those terms?
No, I knew about those terms. I did not know about spit fuck.
I'm with you on that.
That is specifically that is the first. Hey, because we are pop culture sommeliers here. Okay, we know all the varietals. We know all what pairs with what here. It's our job, and it's what we do.
You two are sommeliers. I'm the guy getting drunk at the wine tasting.
Like, give me the night train. Let's do it.
Like, you got any natty back there? Where the beers, kid?
Fucking Dr. McGillicuddy's. Bring it on, dude.
Yeah. Dude, you got schnapps?
As I say, going with my fine taste here and, holding it up and all that, that is the very first line spoken by Woody Harrelson as his character Tallahassee, right? When he shows up and meets the other character. Where the hell is he from? I forget. Was he Cleveland? He's Cleveland, isn't he? I forget. That's all cities.
Not that good at it.
That's kind of one of the jokes. It's all that. Yes, but that is the first line. But yeah, Greg, how is everything going over there?
Oh, loving life, man. Loving life. Looking forward to this and getting the steam room extra steamy with just talking dirty about Velma.
Oh, well, that's it. And guess what? The lid is off. The cat is out of the proverbial bag. We are living in a time of perpetual pop culture warfare. And, as I say, we the Steam Gentlemen are here and ready to go for it and to represent. A couple things. Hopefully a bunch of our listeners got a little relief this week and we're pardoned and don't have to worry about those minor weed violations anymore. Hopefully, some of our listeners were in that umbrella and that, we're given a little amnesty there, which I'm happy to report that's out there. And the other big news, that we wanted to sit down, we wanted to talk about was what was going on in the world of Scooby-Doo. I made a little reference to it the other night when we were recording with Amelia, so that you'll hear that before you hear this. I hope if I do everything right, which is 50-50 at best. Let's be honest here, guys. It's quite the operation we got going here. It's down to the timing. But yes, we have official confirmation from the canonical, from the Vatican of the Scooby-Doo world, Hanna-Barbera. I'm imagining they still own the rights, if they're still in existence and still a thing. Velma is out there. She's living her truth, as Greg said. She's living her truth. She's out there. She's in the LGBTQ community. And, but of course, that just, brings up the conversations. How do I have to explain that to my kids?
I will no one think of the children.
Oh my Lord.
Children.
There are two things that parents get really antsy about when I talk about it. One, that is one of your only jobs. Right? I said the first job is to keep them alive. And the second job
where your pants are.
Well, tell them about the world. That's it. That's literally part of your job. Before we had public schools, you had to educate them about everything. Now you get 8 hours a day with someone else helping you out with that shit. So I don't know what you're complaining about. And the other thing that really, as a parent, kind of blows my mind is when people talk about kids grow up so fast these days. Really? That's what you think, huh? Because of when they had to start working on the farm when they were 6 in hard back-breaking labor. And if you had a girl, it was like, wait, have you had your first period yet? Because I got to marry you off, right? When they talk about learning the facts of life and all the things that kids know about sex these days. Again, back to being on the farm. It's like, what's that cow doing? What's that bull doing with the cow? Yeah, that's how we started on that education right away. And then it was like, oh, and by the way, yeah, you're 12. I need to marry you off right now because I need 2 more chickens and a goat. And that's the way life is. All right. And you're not helping out around here enough. If I could have just had a few more sons, damn it.
Considering we're about to talk about a few cartoon teenagers, it's helpful to remind individuals that actually the term teenager is only about, 5 to 10 years older than the state of California. It was not a term for most of humanity. It was actually created during our Western manifestation, aka raping of the land. AKA the Wild West. And it was created because, frankly, we had no understanding or term for that weird sort of time period in between, like obviously a child, and we probably can't use for child labor all the time, or an adult where you can do adult things too. So the term teenager is actually not that old.
Amen to that. And you're absolutely right. And, on all counts, really, that is the case. I was told by a member of Congress a long time ago that if the rape of the land is legitimate, quote unquote, that the land has a way of shutting the whole thing down. Remember that from 10 years ago? But
oh, she is. Oh, she is.
Oh, she is. Yes,
we're about 1 or 2 bad rainstorms away from the subplot to fucking what's that Matthew McConaughey Interstellar.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
We're like 1 or 2 bad rotations away from like, hey guys, it's corn, and oh shit, nope, nothing.
That's all we got.
Shit.
Oh shit. Having a good time. But yeah, we wanted to talk a little bit about it. We wanted to talk about Scooby and Velma and the whole gang. And the fact that realistically, the only thing I was, looking back on it as a kid, the only thing that I found really upsetting is that they didn't show, they should have had a huge bong in the back of the mystery machine, man. Come on. We never once saw the bong, and it was there. Like, absolutely. Come on.
When I was a kid, I mean, I didn't have the playful attitudes towards drug use.
Fair
so
enough.
The idea is, I mean, let's be honest, you know what I mean? If it wasn't, and I grew up in the city, so if it wasn't crack and no one was getting shot, then it had nothing to do with drugs. So it wasn't until I got older that I knew people did drugs for fun. Like I did not know that was a thing. I knew that it took all of your money away and it turned you into a zombie like Thriller, and that you worst comes to worst, you were either going to end up shot or in prison or AIDS. So I didn't have so I never made that connection with them for a long time. Like when I was first watching Scooby Doo as a little kid, did not get that connection because I didn't realize that the whole recreational your drugs are adorable thing that didn't apply to us. When you do drugs, motherfucker, you getting shot or you getting shot or you getting shot or you're gonna overdose or go to prison. Like, there was nothing fun about drugs in our way, so I never made that connection.
And then you get shot in prison.
Then you get shot in prison. Oh, I love the
overdose and then got shot.
I love the adorable drugs, but let's face it, weed is totally the adorable drug. It's like, oh, it's so cute, just a little weed just sitting there, and they trim up around the corner there and make the male and the female. Oh, good stuff.
Yeah, no, man, because they were in an LSD van. Like they were doing, if we're gonna talk about them and drugs, they were doing all of the drugs.
Well,
it was not just weed.
They
were cooking up some shit.
Daphne was the plug. Daphne
breaking
was the plug.
Scooby.
Yeah,
They
were
breaking
cooking up
Scooby.
Some shit. They think their dog can talk. Right? They are fucked up.
That was one of those things that we never really. Maybe we'll decide it today. But where did other people hear Scooby talk or just them? Like, is an interesting question, right?
Other people did. They interacted with the dog. Literally, like every other episode, Mr. Johnson's like, "Fuck you and that dog." I mean, like he understood the dog.
If that's the case, then is it because of drugs that Scooby could talk?
Oh,
no, it's because it's a cartoon. That's why. That's all. But I think that would make for an interesting real world sort of reimagination.
That's what I'm saying.
Scooby, hold on. Of Scooby by taking the Breaking Bad approach, whereas on the surface they're these hapless, innocent, all-American teens of different varieties and stripes going around helping people, but actually undercover what they're doing is they're taking out their competition. And they're doing it in the guise of police protection because they're helping get crime off the street, but really they're fucking cleaned up their turf.
So you're saying they're the whitey bulger,
because that's why they turned Scrappy into basically Dog Joe Pesci.
Okay,
he was right.
Right.
Wasn't Scrappy just a violent sociopath? Like he just went around threatening people.
Yeah,
close.
There it is.
Very close.
He definitely was like Joe Pesci from like Casino, not Joe Pesci.
Yeah. I had my thoughts on Scrappy. I'm gonna save those for later. But
his name is Scrappy. I mean,
Scrappy.
What the fuck?
Scrappy.
They're not trying to hide it.
Spidey.
Aren't you a scrappy little miscreant? Well, with that, let's turn it over to the three of clubs. He is on the scene, on the case. He's going to solve the case for us. He's going to solve the mystery after his little reimagining there, which I like. Hollywood, we're writing this stuff for you. Call us. Come on, Bilby. Come on, baby. Give us the call. But Rashaun Smith, let's pull the mask off of this villain and find out who it really is.
Yeah, I ain't solving shit. Let me start by a nice another lyric / quote. Stocky, short, and cocky, looked like Apollo Creed after he just fought Rocky. That's a shout out to my man MF Doom coming up on his death anniversary. If he is dead, because frankly, I kind of feel like if anyone would pull off the whole like I'm just doing this because I don't want to fuck with y'all anymore move and faking his death, it would be MF Doom. And frankly, I think he has the fan base, including myself, to not even care. Just run into that dude at the dollar store somewhere and just be like, yo, I thought you were dead. He's like, and just walks away. Like, because that's part of what we appreciate about him. And I'm leading with that once again to say my man's anniversary of, as some people in the Black community say, his homegoing. And it is coming up on Halloween. Only MF Doom could fucking die around Halloween or on Halloween. But also, because perspective is a very interesting thing. MF Doom, in a lot of ways, was an individual who was able to take cartoons and spin it in a way that if you just looked at it from a different direction, add a couple of lyrics, things change a little bit. So why is that important to today's subject when it comes to Scooby-Doo? Well, frankly, I think it comes down to what I'm constantly pointing out. Perspective. Perspective has a funny way of messing with things. It has a funny way of changing what you want in things and what you see and what you take out of things. It has a funny way of putting importance on things where it wouldn't be before, and vice versa. For example, if you asked the 8-year-old Rashaun Smith what his absolute perfect day would have been, it would have been, and I'm not bullshitting because it was me. I was there. I'm pretty sure it was. I got witnesses. Is that I would have said it would be a rainy day. I don't have to leave my bed, and I get to watch Scooby-Doo all fucking day. I probably would have said fucking depends on who asked. I did have a little bit of a sailor mouth. I had older siblings, but the point being is, if an adult asked, I probably would have dropped that bomb. But the point being is, me and Scooby go way back. It's one of the first intellectual properties that I really consume, mainly because as a kid, you don't really have to think too much. And it kind of checked a lot of boxes if these are things that you like. So, for example, it kind of gets called a horror cartoon or it's put in a horror genre. It wasn't scaring anyone. It wasn't absolutely scaring. I mean, like, if you got scared, you're either very, very young, and that's understandable and appropriate. But for the most part, most of us watch it. It didn't really scare, but it did kind of create this feeling, if you love Halloween, that sort of was easy to sort of connect to. Even if you don't know how to describe it or explain it or understand it, it's one of those things like right now, I love October. Fall is my favorite sport. Fall is my favorite season. I love October. I love Halloween. I love all that time. So for me, watching Scooby-Doo was kind of like a daily portal. Go ahead, Birdman.
Do you love pumpkin spice lattes?
Yeah, I do. And I did before a lot of fucking people did. And I'll leave it at that.
And I don't need to apologize.
I don't need to apologize.
Although it's kind of funny when certain people, when the rioting started and the loot is starting, the shooting did not start. So I just want to say, whatever. Looking at you. Looking at you, New Hampshire. Don't think I forgot about that. Y'all fucking turned up a city for pumpkin spice. Whole baby. City. Y'all took down a whole fucking city for pumpkin spice. And we get shit for rights. Anyway, so back to Scooby-Doo. Also, it was fun. It was entertaining. It was lighthearted. And if you were someone like me, I always, for weirdly enough, probably because of the things I watched, movies, my siblings, all these different things, I also just loved teens. When I was a little kid, teens just seemed like the coolest thing to me. And part of it was because they got to be, to my eyes, wherever the hell they wanted to be. And watching Scooby-Doo as a child, it sort of embodied that. You had the guy who just, for me, it was kind of interesting and weird to see the jock hanging out with all these guys. If anything, he kind of gave me a prototype of you can be the cool kid with the weird friends. You had Daphne, who was objectively, if you're just following, the white normative Anglo-Saxon Judeo-Christian standards of beauty. Yeah, Daphne was like, all right, well, obviously Fred's doing something right. He's got his own whip and he's running around with Daphne. Then you had Velma, who, funny enough, from even a childhood, from even a kid, I'm like, I'm not sure she's into Fred, and she damn sure ain't into Shaggy. I guess she's into herself, but at the same time, it wasn't one of those things where I just more thought like she just wasn't into the dudes around, and possibly maybe not dudes, but also she was in a lot of ways is sort of embody the nerd. This is coming from a child's perspective. And then we get to the two characters, the title character and his sidekick, which a lot of people mix up that order. So we get to those individuals. It's funny how I'm not sure if this is going to fall into the lead in, but it's funny how we were talking about in our little warm up about like drugs, and Greg was talking about how he perceived the drugs. It wasn't light, and I'm not gonna put words in Josh's mouth. He's right here, but it kind of felt like a little bit of the opposite. Funny thing for me was I kind of never felt offended or threatened or anything about the obvious druggie that was Shaggy. It was pretty clear, mainly because from my family in the area and the people I grew up around, especially by the time I was 8, 9, 10, that was just kind of considered shit that white people did. So like it was just one of those things. So like, all right, well, obviously there's no black people on here. They're not messing with these idiots. I mean, look at Shaggy. He's fucking fucked up. And then on top of that, like I obviously wanted, who didn't want a dog like Scooby? Scooby could talk. Scooby could do basically things that Shaggy couldn't even do. Like honestly, if you ask which one of the two, if you were walking around the universe that created Scooby-Doo and you're asking anyone, who would you rather drive a car in a life threatening situation or a life-saving situation? They're going with Scooby every time if their only choices are Scooby and Shaggy. So like Scooby to any kid who even cares about animals, let alone dogs, was like the pinnacle. So you put all this together, and again, the episodes were entertaining. They were satisfying. Even as a child, they felt super satisfying. It was like you laugh a little bit, but I had never really felt it was that funny. The laugh track kind of also was kind of weird. So maybe almost like I was watching one of my parents' shows because they had laugh tracks. So it was almost like this weird sort of machismo of adulthood of watching it, and then you add the horror part. So I can keep going about why I love the entity and all that. But the funny part is none of their roles were surprising to me, even as a child. And then as I'm looking at it as an adult, which blows my mind with how some of these people are reacting, I'm also looking at the two individuals that created. So the two individuals that created Scooby-Doo, I had it. I hope you pause this. You know what? I should have wrote it down.
We got you. We got you back. We'll fill that dead air. Don't you worry. He's checking it out, but I know how it is. He's got to go back to the old phone.
Going to the facts.
I should have written it down.
Got to go to the facts.
So the two guys who wrote or created Scooby-Doo were Joe Ruby and Ken Spears. Now, those individuals were about, let's say, mid to late 30s when they created Scooby-Doo. What came out when they were kids was Reefer Madness. No one took Reefer Madness serious. So you take that, and then also you take the understanding where these guys came up, which both of them came up in basically middle class background in America. I think Spears was in the Navy, but for the most part, they kind of had your generic American experience. Now, if you take that understanding, you take when they're making Scooby-Doo, so we're taking the mid 60s, and then you look forward. Even if these guys were trying to be the most progressive individuals, if you break down the 5 archetypes of Scooby-Doo, they're actually not all that progressive, which leads to why today's outbursts make no fucking sense. So let me back up. Fred is the do-gooder. He's not the all-American jock or blah, blah, blah. He's actually the dweeb do-gooder, but he looks good, and he's sort of the picture of the all-American boy. So if anything, if you're going to stereotype the all-American boy, it looks and sounds and acts like Fred. He always jumps into the situation. He almost never knows what the fuck he's doing. He's always trying to lead. He never fucking actually comes up with the right outcome. He is constantly getting in the goddamn way. If anything, I can argue that the people who are making Scooby-Doo were making fun of these stereotypes. Same thing with Daphne. She was the ideal woman if you look at it from the lens of the mid-60s. She was pristine, pearl white with this red mythical type hair who did nothing but basically back and co-sign Fred at every turn. Although they're also pointing out that those women are someone you have to pay attention to, because if you watch those episodes closely, actually what Daphne does is she basically corrals Fred. She basically tries to figure out one way or the other how to make sure this guy doesn't fucking kill everyone. And then you get to Shaggy and Scooby. I'll put Scooby aside because we're talking about a dog, but I'm about to say something that's real fucked up when it comes to that. And I already hit Josh with this, so he knows what's coming. But take Shaggy and then take an understanding of Reefer Madness. They were just making fun of all the people who make fun of people who smoke weed. They're just literally saying, this is the worst you think weed heads are, or potheads are. So we're just going to draw it, and we're going to make this character based off of your expectations because you don't know any better because you're too fucking stupid, and half of you are doing it anyway. And I hate to say it because, again, this is coming from the 60s. I'm sure these gentlemen were very nice individuals when it's all said and done, relatively speaking. But we're also talking about the 60s, and even as progressive as they were, I'm pretty sure the allegory for Scooby-Doo was actually black people. What is their understanding, or at least shot at it, because, again, we're talking about archetypes and stereotypes, is we're talking about the loyal entity that outwardly is dumb, outwardly doesn't make a lot of sense, outwardly should be ignored. But if you actually pay attention to this thing, it's going to lead you to success more often than not. And I leave Velma last, not because she's the most important, but because, again, looking at the fucking stereotype from the 60s, if you didn't come with lesbian after looking at Velma, the first fucking episode, I don't know what experiences you have. You need to get out of your goddamn house. You need to start reading some books. You need to talk to people. You need to know other people. Because if you know anyone, even an 8-year-old, can figure out that's the lesbian of the group. So I'm glad they made it canonical. But frankly, most of us didn't need it because we already knew. Velma, you go ahead and live your life, girl.
Wow. All right. I like it. I will say that, Scooby was the one constantly saying, let's get out of here. Like, he was always saying, let's move, because, honestly, they always got very lucky that the people they were up against were never going to, really take it a little too far. I mean, imagine if he'd burned down the house with all the kids in it, right? Just for the insurance money.
The funny thing is, when you look at some of the plots, there are murders involved. There's not always, people are getting fucked up left and right, or maybe not murders, but really maimed and shit like that. And obviously it's a kid's show, so you can't go too far. If I were to argue for one defense of the creators, Mr. Ruby and Mr. Spears, and even using stereotypes, what I would also point out to everyone is what they're also trying to say is the people you're casting out can come together and solve shit. So maybe we shouldn't be so objectively asshole about it.
I think I think it's always a goal, is to not be so objectively
asshole. You would think. You would think, but have you been around in the last?
As I said, it's a good goal.
It's a goal. We're talking about ideals right now.
I'm not seeing much.
Unfortunately,
of it,
we don't have a
lately,
plan, so it's a really shitty dream.
Right.
I think it definitely, if you want to put it in, the right lens, you have to say progressive for the time. So I think, it's kind of, you have to adapt to what kids want to see, and I think definitely, not at least having, obviously we're not young right now, so it's not resonating the same way, but, to a kid, it's probably weird that you don't have a gay character. Like maybe the gay character, right? Maybe the gay character has actually upended the black character. Like you don't have at least one.
That's a good point, but I would actually argue it's even simpler that to kids. I think for kids, it's weird that you have any sexual situation. They don't understand that world. I was just watching a video about someone being upset about Scooby-Doo, and it came up with the whole, how do I explain this to my kids? And the person who's interacting with them was basically like, okay, well, how do they know about man and woman? How do they know about that? Like, you had to teach them about that. They weren't ready for, no one kid's ready for that. It's just not part of their world or understanding. So if anything, I would argue if you have to teach any sexual, that's weird to kids. Think about kids. You guys had kids. You guys saw when they went from the other sex or the same sex, but intimate relationship to, okay, all right, this isn't too bad.
I will say that, it always my response, like, especially nowadays, I got a 10 and an 8-year-old, usually with the, what do I do? What do I say to my kids? I say to my kids, some people are attracted to the same kind of people, and some people are attracted to different kind of people. That's about all I have to say. Sometimes boys like boys,
that
sometimes girls like girls.
Yeah, that's about it.
Sometimes they like they. That's about it, guys. We got it. We're good. Nothing to freak out about. That's where I take it from in that regard. But I think it's the right kind of grist for the mill. I think, as always, it's funny when the controversy, and I'm putting that in bunny quotes, stems from something that, was the quiet part just said out loud, right? All of a sudden we gotta get our proverbial knickers in a twist, but yet here we are back, talking about a cartoon show. But God bless
that's
it, because
well, the
that's
disappointing part is like this is, I mean, for the most part, our generation, and we grew up with gays, either well introduced or not. Definitely, the idea of it a hell of a lot better than our parents, and a lot of these adults who are our peers now aren't handling it any better. So I think that's the part that gets me about it. The fact that, I mean, all of us grew up on Scooby Doo. So, I mean, I guess that leads me into my 10 minutes.
all right. Let's step on up to the plate. Let's take a few hacks
Okay.
at it in your 10 minutes. Let's do this.
We can absolutely do that. I mean, the idea was always for Scooby Doo to be counterculture. I mean, it's a LSD bus full of hippies. I mean, you look at even because you guys, you keep saying like obviously they were this, obviously they were that. It genuinely wasn't for me, because again, I grew up with a slightly different background, so I wasn't getting a lot of that. But I knew this was a bus full of hippies, and I knew they definitely were the counterculture, because I was also growing up on the Brady Bunch and other shows where these kids were supposed to be groovy and hip. And so I understood that these kids are supposed to be like new and rebellious. And that was the point. I mean, where the fuck were any of their parents at one point or another? Like, this is literally, right, a bus full of teenagers. One's a hippie, one's like the perfect girl around town, one's the big dumb jock, another one's the nerdy girl, and a talking dog. So obviously this was not like a normal group of teenagers. It was like a step above Archie, like the idea hippie wise. So the idea that people, especially people of our generation, would be upset that Velma was a lesbian, which was always at least a joke. I mean, nobody said it for sure, because, like, did it matter? Because did any of them ever have boyfriends and girlfriends? I guess Daphne flirted around with Fred a little bit, and sometimes there would be a girl dog. But I mean, it's, not like any of them hooked up. So is it really important? Don't really know. Should you be freaking out about it? Of course not. Because there was nothing that was not counterculture about Scooby Doo. Scooby Doo was very counterculture from the beginning. And it went up to, I think Daphne learned Kung Fu. I can't remember. But they started making these little changes to the characters, like were Daphne and Fred hooking up? Daphne started wearing jumpsuits, because for a long time, Daphne was the it girl and Velma was kind of the nerdy one. But then she had her own separate adventures with Scooby and Shaggy, and that was a TV show. So I don't think that it's important for that reason. But in our very, this gender culture, sex war that we're having, obviously we know what the argument's going to be. The argument's going to be, you're going to make my kids gay by having a cartoon with a gay character, because that's where the gay comes from. And
I thought it was Christmas light displays blinking in a certain pattern. Yes, I've seen that as a story.
Right.
I
like
saw
that's
that.
That's
I've
how
seen
you
that.
It's the red cup. We all know it's the red cup.
Red cup or frogs. We can't forget the frogs. That's
Gape
how the
is from
frogs.
Satan.
making the gog frogs gay, like that kind of thing. And I think that's the thing that's most disappointing to me. Like, it's just this oppressive feeling of generational failure. Like we still have a generation of young Black men that don't see much of a future outside of rhetoric and violence. We still have a generation of conservatives that were even more backwards than the Reagan conservatives. We're still fighting with Russia. Like these, like this is the kind of thing, like all of these things still happening and getting just constantly worse. It's just the people getting upset about Velma was just that much more disheartening. Well, like I said the other day, anybody who was into Velma, like Velma was your it girl, doesn't care. Actually, Velma being a lesbian is more hot if you're into that. Because, Jessica Rabbit could be gay. Who cares? It's Jessica Rabbit. Still hot if you're into Jessica Rabbit, right? That's
We
not
don't
going
kink
to
shame.
change.
We
You
don't
know,
kink shame.
RC
So.
from Transformers. If you were really into RC from the Transformers, I mean, why do robots need genders? I don't know. Doesn't matter. Why did why do they need different sex?
Does bring up an interesting question.
Don't know. Have no idea. But you know, the kind of people that would be upset about this kind of thing, you can't really hit them with reason. You know, like it really is something that's going to have to just, you know, slowly, they're going to have to slowly absorb, because more and more characters are they are having more gay characters in children's media. Like it's just going to happen because children are gay, and so they want to see their groups represented. They want to see gay characters, and they don't want to see gay characters as the weird one or the one that needs to be saved. No, they want to go on the adventures and be with the other kids, and so they understand that they aren't freaks. They don't belong on the outside. They never did. And that's important for kids to see. And that's another thing that we absolutely should understand generationally, because that's part of every generation as well. You know, you have that point where it's so difficult and so you're so insecure as a young person, and to see some that matters to see someone. Now, I'm not going to say every time I, you know, heard roadblock rhyme, it really it really made me it really made me proud to be black. I'm not going to say that. But I mean, let's be honest. Like, I needed me some Roadblock and Junkyard Dog. Like, I needed.
I was always happy to see him, never happy to hear him.
Right? You know, like I was just like, you know what? Thank you. And the episode of Scooby Doo with the Harlem Globetrotters. Thank you.
Episodes.
Right? I did appreciate that. I did appreciate that. You know, so I think that for these people in particular to still be getting upset about this thing, the disheartening part isn't that they're upset, you know, because I mean, they are that ignorant. So obviously that is the direction that they would take. And obviously they're going to oppose anything that is woke, because, you know, the wokeness is still so strong in the media. The sad part is that it really does become, no matter how hard we try, a part of the political argument.
Well, it's good. What can I tell you? I think if you are that afraid of the wokeness, you're right. There's no way it can't become part of, you know, the political landscape. And the fact is, pop culture has always been a reflection of that landscape and what we are and who we are at this point in time. Even as Rashaun pointed out, started in the 60s, right? You know, and we all agree that was progressive for the time, right? That they would show these hippie kids, that they would even try and show any of these archetypes. Yeah, they were, you know, doing their humble best, right? They were trying to show what we would call representation nowadays. I'm sure they missed the mark by a long shot, especially as they you know, going with Rashaun's theory, which I see a lot of validation in. Honestly, if Scooby is the black guy, all right, we're not quite past stereotypes, are we? Right?
Not at all.
We're still kind of shifted people there, but we are trying. Progressive means to move, try and move forward.
Right. To be clear, what I was saying is they had a progressive view. I don't think they were actually trying to convince or convey anyone. I think they're just literally, if anything, I'm not so sure they were that much different than Trey Parker and Matt Stone. It's just they delivered it in a different way and went about it a different way. But when you think about, I don't even really want to call it a message. It's just more, if anything, it's kind of like an FU, or sort of like, if anything, a placeholder that sometimes doesn't get changed. Like, I just watched this thing on Dragon Ball Z. I didn't know, maybe Greg knew, that literally every character in the fucking series, other than some takeout names, like takeout restaurant names, every character is names from the creator's fridge. Like, literally, the literally the main characters are from a salad planet and they're vegetables. Like, that's, if you take all the Japanese words and you break them down, I just watched it. It's like, so I think sometimes we put a little more weight on like what the intentions of artists are trying to do. What I was really pointing out is when making the characters and then how they executed. That's sort of what they're saying. And if I may just real fast, I think Greg nails something that frankly should be the conversation across the board for all cartoons, which is, why do we actually have to worry about gender and sexual preference? Why do we have to worry about relationships? What about that does anything to the story for the children that are watching it? What representation is there? Like, it's fine we have representation across the board, but I think we actually touched the biggest point that these shows skip over, and really conversation is, why the hell are we introducing sex to these kids so early? And we wonder why some of us grow up fucked up. It's because we get normalized to the idea that you have to be in a relationship by the age of like 4. What's the point of that?
Well, I don't think the point I was making was like, if this isn't that kind of show, meaning it doesn't have some, rom-com elements. It doesn't have, like we mentioned, the Little Rascals, like Alfalfa was always pining over whoever that girl was.
Inappropriate. That's my point.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm not going to say it's inappropriate. I'm just saying thematically, that wasn't the point of that show or Transformers or the other ones I mentioned, because even if I just, again, we're talking about representation, and it's like, it's always the representation that's most important to you, which is the representation that you always want to see. So if you are a little gay girl and you do at least want your reality to be reflected in the thing that you're watching, yes, it does make you feel good to, see someone who says they're gay. To say you're like introducing them to sex, we're not introducing them to sex, we're introducing them to a way of life, a relationship.
How does the kid know they're heterosexual? That's my point. Like, no matter where they land, it's because adults are actually moving them towards that conversation earlier than they need to be. Kids will be inquisitive. They will have feelings. They will ask questions and they will talk about it. Sure. Point being is, why do we have to introduce it into children's show? You just said rom-com. What part of a kid needs to have a rom-com story when they're 4, 5, and 6?
Kids love that shit. I mean,
because of adults.
That's at the crux of most Disney movies. I mean, first of all,
I say throw it all to the mat. Just like how people started with Confederate statues and looking at their background and moved directly to the dollar. I'm down for the reanalyzation of it. Because again, it leads to this dumb shit that we're all talking about right now. Fucking 40, 50, 60 plus year old adults walking around being upset about a fictional character.
Well, we have to be careful when we say that too, because we always have to remember at the end of the day, they just want to throw some more fire on the pyre, throw some more wood on the pyre of the culture war. I mean, the only reason the right is jumping on this issue is because that reason, and the only reason, the only thing that could be considered specious is whether or not the people who are producing the show are intentionally doing it, because the research has been done. Doing things like this really sends whatever IP you're talking about up into the algorithm. Like, it really does boost it.
Yeah, right now.
You got the cynicism, dare I say, on both sides, right?
Well, yeah, but that's exactly it.
Yeah,
like they did it. They did it with the last 007 movie, and everybody just kind of said, okay, well, this actually really helps our numbers, and it's basically free advertising. So let's take this M&M and put her in some different shoes. Let's go and take, just do that. Let's go take a random character that no one's considered even in a long time and just make them gay. Why? Because it stirs up conversations. Like,
right.
It does work.
Yeah. So fast. I'm not talking about search algorithms. I'm not talking about boosting ratings. I'm just pointing out, like, for example, why have you ever heard 2 adults talking about, oh yeah, my little son, he's 2 and he has a little girlfriend. She's 2 and so cute. And we put them together and oh, look, they kiss. Like, that's unnecessary. That's my fucking point. If you want to throw Disney movies in there, go fucking ahead. Go ahead. Pixar, call them all out. I'm just pointing out we don't need to. Kids will be represented by seeing little kids.
All right. With that, I'm just going to step.
I'd say. Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just going to say I'll step up to the plate with that for my 10 here, just to say a couple different things that just
use your words, big guy.
On a personal note, I still remember in first grade, a little redheaded girl who came over and visited us from England. And
Oh,
I had a huge crush on her. I didn't even know what that was at the time.
shit.
And I had no idea why I liked her, but I liked her. Like, I had no idea what the hell I was talking about, but I did know I liked it. I liked her. So, you know, there's something to be said that we have our norms, we have our parents, we have our families, we have our relationships, we know what we see. You know, how much, yeah, I agreed. I certainly agree that, you know, don't want to go for anything graphic for the youngins whatsoever. I want to talk a little bit about what I found, you know, overall disturbing in the trends in Scooby-Doo. If I'm being truly honest, I was cracking wise when I was talking about the giant bong in the back of the truck. That was only as a teenage perspective. As a kid, I had no clue about the pot jokes. I had no understanding that you know, the Scooby snacks were just a giant metaphor for the munchies and all these things, right? This comes on in the later years.
Sorry, Josh, my first time around Bong, you would have thought I stepped into a scene of New Jack City.
Yeah, it definitely, you know, wasn't something I was hip to as a kid watching him on, and I was watching in the mornings often and then staying home sick. Those were the days you could get to almost watch Scooby-Doo all day, or at least until TV 38 took it off. They rolled about 3 in a row, 4 in a row, whatever it was, and in syndication. Now, I think I got the best of Scooby-Doo was the ones after Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? That being the original series, I'm pretty sure.
Scooby-Doo, Where Are You?
Yeah, so we got that. But now, to me, the golden age of Scooby-Doo was the quote-unquote new Scooby-Doo movies. These were the ones that came out in the 70s, slightly after. And this is why I think it's the shit, is because they had a guest star every week. That's where they had the Harlem Globetrotters, right? That's where we had the Harlem Globetrotters. That's where we had Batman and Robin. So here's the thing I was upset about. Does that also mean that Superman's there? And why haven't they met Superman or Green Lantern? Why is that? They're clearly in DC. Can they be in DC and Marvel? These questions, they just left these things hanging out there. These are hanging chads, man. Why the hell did Batman and Robin decide to, you know, the world's greatest detective came up with decided to team up with.
You need these kids. Yeah.
Apparently so.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, man. I told you Daphne was the plug.
I'm just saying.
Man was getting that good shit.
You know, all right, maybe so. All right, but I still think it's Robin if that was the case. But yeah, they had Sonny and Cher. Don't forget Sonny and Cher.
Sonny and Cher
had a point in their marriage that was clearly tumultuous because she was insulting him the entire goddamn time. That was all that was happening.
Well, did you see him?
So we were just learning about divorce apparently.
Yeah.
Which actually, by the time I saw him, Sonny and Cher had already been divorced, and I was informed of that by my mother, no less. That was why she didn't like those episodes, because she was always just, you know, they were always fighting and they were always ragging on him. But, you know, to me,
that got dark.
That's my
I got dark.
It got dark. But, you know, my Scooby-Doo. So the big questions I started to have is, of course, and Greg touched on it a little bit, when they broke the band up, they never explained this to the kids well enough. And that disturbed the shit out of me, because shortly after seeing the new, you know, the Saturday ones that they started to produce was The Adventures of Scooby and Scrappy Doo. And it was just Daphne and Scooby and Shaggy and Scrappy. They never exactly explained what the fuck happened. Where is Fred? Was he killed in an industrial accident?
Right, yeah.
Where is Velma? Is she off working on her PhD? I don't know. I want to know these things, right? Is Scrappy really Scooby's nephew, or is this like a weird Ted Bundy situation with like a grandpa dad?
Where the fuck did Scooby get all this family from all of a sudden?
Right. Who is paying child support for Scrappy?
Kidding me? Really?
I want to know who's paying child support for
Dogs
Scrappy,
don't have litters.
Who is getting his ADHD meds that this dog so certainly absolutely needs. Like, this dog has some issues. If nothing else, like,
I'll talk about the bong.
We got to get it. We got to get him to, you know, I'm just saying, we got to get him to my sister for, my sister's an excellent dog trainer. So if nothing else, we need Scrappy to have, you know, at least a couple of weeks over at my sister's place. And then really the most important question that I feel that Scooby-Doo never answered and I, I'm putting it out here. I'm putting out my little sign. I've got my coffee cup, and the prove me wrong is that Scooby is the great grandfather of Astro from the Jetsons. I'm just telling you, there's no way, right? There's no way. This is, come on.
Way to go out
Yo.
on a branch there. Talking about two
Scooby.
dogs from Hanna-Barbera. Watch out.
I'm just saying, we got to have the connection there.
So many conspiracies.
They're keeping it from you. Wake up, sheeple. Okay, this is the truth going on. All right.
Been hanging out in South Bedrock too long, man.
That you see it.
Yo, that's the shit. Yo,
But-
that's a good question.
Yeah. All right. But
No,
all these
seriously,
jokes
yo.
aside, what I felt that, what is interesting to me, I feel Scooby in its own way makes way for some of the shows that we really did love growing up as we became adults. I think Scooby sets up the X-Files in that sense of that sort of serialized kind of thing going around each week. Do we, 'cause what is the X-Files, right? It's two FBI agents going around, and one of them's pulling the mask off the monster, right? High as shit.
High as shit.
There's some questionable potential
Looking at
porn
you,
in the
Mulder.
background. At least when it comes to Mulder. Mulder's trying to believe it always is the monster, and Scully's pulling the mask off, right? He say, I would have gotten away with it. It wasn't for those two pesky FBI agents, right? And so you get that, and then you get the highest form, which actually did a crossover with the cartoon in its episodes, which is Supernatural, right? Supernatural is the end form of what Scooby-Doo is trying to reach, but we get more blood, we get more gore, we get gunfire, we get lots of different, sassy ass lines and one-liners. One dude who loves pie, who's my favorite. And my wife says I'm more like Dee than Sam. So, all right, she's lying to me, but that's okay. There's certain lies in relationships we can expect. But that is, and as I say, they even did an episode where they got zapped into it because of a magic item. They got zapped into an episode of Scooby-Doo, right? That's how much they acknowledge their own shows and how close they really are when you get right down to it. But yeah, in truth, I had no idea about any of the cues that were being given as far as anyone's individual orientation. And in that, I overall come down on the same side as Greg that, yeah, I think kids know pretty early on. I don't necessarily think you have to push them to talk about it, but I think they have questions. Some kids are coming from homes with two moms, two dads. So it's just at least letting people know out there that they're not alone one way or the other, however they're feeling. But yeah, as far as like the real questions I was left with unanswered in Hanna-Barbera, I just went over the whole list of them there, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it is that blend. I think it is one side, like you say, wanting to throw a little more kindling on the fire that is the culture war. And yeah, there's a certain amount of cynicism, right? I would love to just say, oh, this is great. And yeah, in the end, I prefer it and I'll go with it. Even though there's a little cynicism in it.
I agree.
I'll take it. You know what I mean? But all right, life doesn't really change because you have a rainbow cup during Pride Month, right? Now, in the end, I'm still going to drink it. I'm not going to throw the Pride cup down because I'd rather be that kind of human being, right? I'm not going to be like, oh, I'm not drinking out of this Pride cup. I'm not going to drink out of this thing. I'm not going to wear this thing because it's rainbow colored. Someone might think I'm gay. No, I don't want to live that kind of life, right? That's not how I want to live. So
how you feel about Supernatural will take care of that.
I mean, all I'm saying is I would rather, I'll take, I guess when it comes right down to it, I'll take a little bit of the corporate cynicism because, all right, corporations are corporations. And believe me, they're up to a lot, when you get out of the entertainment industry and even in the entertainment industry, they're up more to a lot more shady shit than that for profit. So, okay. if that's the worst you got and you're just trying to pull on the old heartstrings of inclusivity. I want to make sure I get that word right. That's a tongue twister. Ever notice that? Inclusivity. A lot of syllables in that. So just make sure you're saying it right. But yeah, I still think it's okay to be honest about that and to be saying, hey, Hannah, do I really believe in their deepest hearts of hearts, Hanna-Barbera cares about the LGBTQ community? it's a large company. It's a lot of people. They probably have some people there that work for them that are part of the LGBTQ community. So,
or they
fair
were
enough,
taking a shot.
right? Or, or what can I say, right? But in the end, I'd rather fall on that side of things. Is what it really boils down to. I'd rather, have Velma out. I liked our man Bo on his commentary. Bo of the Fifth Column. He's got a YouTube channel, and I liked what he said, where he said I just was kind of ticked because I thought she was bi, but not presented as hypersexual as most people in media. Most bisexual people in media are sort of presented. I just thought,
well, it's funny how you guys want to champion
bi.
representation and totally skip over to the bi community that's rightly upset about this situation.
Fair enough.
That's my point.
Well, I mean, a lot of people are feeling a lot of people. What I'm finding is a lot of people wanted to claim Velma. Okay, just like plus size girls, nerdy girls, people that are bi, people that are everyone wanted to claim Velma, and everyone. I feel like before they did this, they should have had like squares or a raffle or something. Like they should have like a what is Velma? What do you think Velma is? Like, is she just a kinky ass girl? That's why she wears that short skirt, but big puffy fucking turtleneck. Like, what is she exactly? Is she trans? Is she trans? Like, just her demeanor and her look and how she's covering certain things up. Like, you could absolutely make the argument. Yeah, I think if they wanted to, they could have had like a real, bonanza with this whole thing. But, again, I don't want to be dismissive of representation just because it's not representation that I need. Like if it is reaching some kid out there and making them feel less confused and alone, then it's worth it. And at the end of the day, it pisses off right wingers. So I have to 100% be behind it because, yeah, I have to be on team. Fuck those people. And and as far as the cynicism potentially of the company making this, you're always going to have that. You're just always going to have that. Like you can't be in America and not question the motivations of corporations. I mean, I'm
literally the budget guy.
Silliness. So yeah, I mean, yeah. And right wingers, fuck them. So yeah, we got to do this.
That's the American way. All right. Be cynical and question the means of corporations, but in the end, fall in line with them. That's just the way it's going to be. Right. That's
because
it's going to happen.
Yeah. Because they control us anyway. Whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
2 episodes ago, I'm literally the guy telling you guys most of the reasons why you don't get the horror movies like you claim you want to get is because producers and movie studios like, nah, fuck that noise. We ain't gonna make money off of that. That's the whole point of this whole thing. Like, and first of all, I don't know if I'm being attached to the cynicism of representation. I don't know why. I've literally led that charge for TSG from day one. Whatever. I'm just literally pointing out, as you said, because you kind of talked over your own point, why do robots have genders? Why do we have to worry about a sexual orientation when there was never any relationships introduced into the series to begin with?
No, I'm saying that was the point. That wasn't the point of those shows, and I'm totally okay with that. I'm also saying that wasn't the point. About. No, but that wasn't the point of Scooby Doo. So we don't really care. But at the same time, if they want to change that and interject that, just understand, you might reach a point also where it'll have to be more than just a passing comment.
Or because as I pointed out, you can't change. Okay, but again, to be clear about where I'm coming from, it's not changed from my perspective. She was always that. If anything, I would argue the creators were literally taking shots at everyone. Like I said, Allegory for Black People was a dog. So I'm not necessarily saying they're praising people. They're probably going exactly after for lesbians too. Think about it. They present her as the overly intelligent one, the one who has dreams of a career, the one who's not chasing boys. In the 60s, that might as well have been a lesbian. That was literally what people stereotypically called a lesbian. So the fact that she's a lesbian, whatever, but I think a lot of us would argue we didn't necessarily need it because your point is, oddly enough, I'm arguing for your point, is the most salient. Relationships were never introduced.
No, it wasn't a thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, it wasn't a thing. It wasn't a thing. And you know, as a kid, like you said, absolutely, like as a kid, you didn't need that because obviously you're watching this for like the adventures and shit like that. And so, but you know, if that's going to be the cornerstone of your show, and that's what kind of sucks about being gay. Sorry, guys, but you know, your mere existence is political. And so just it's true. Like just saying that Daphne is like you, can you even stop there? Probably not.
Here's the
Probably not.
irony.
You're probably gonna have to go, you know, further down because after that, after this, people are going to want to see, you know, how well is your understanding about this? Like, are you really going to give, you know, kids a chance? Like if Daphne and Merv, Chad, what was his name again?
Chad.
Fred.
Fred.
Merv.
If Daphne and Fred can flirt a little bit back and forth in the later episodes, then I don't know, put on a girl for Daphne for Velma to flirt with.
So here's the irony: since we do not know actually the sexual preference of any of the characters, technically they all could be gay, they all could be bi, they could all be anything. It literally doesn't matter because it was never actually established. We are putting this onto the characters, and therefore we lead ourselves to the exact situation we're in now.
All right. Well, I'm gonna blow this whole conspiracy wide open, and I'm just I'm gonna finish this off. I'm gonna give you your wake up sheeple moment, okay? About how you're being manipulated behind the scenes.
Are you gonna connect another Hanna-Barbera?
I'm gonna connect the truth. I'm gonna connect the truth, son. I've got the board up here. I've got all the pictures and the thumbtacks and the string going from here.
Are you going to prove my point that they were actually drug dealers and that the movies that you talked about were actually all their special clients that they developed over the years?
Very close. Very close. I'm going to say they are all the true allegories we got to look into this, but I believe the writers had a tie back to good old Massachusetts here where we are from. And the characters, each one of them is a allegory for one of the 5 colleges out in Amherst. Okay. So, we're going to start since we're talking about Velma, we're going to start with Smith College right there. All girls school. Yeah. You can follow it from there. I'm just saying, by the way, she could be asexual. You know, that's a thing too. You know,
that's a thing.
I think that's fair enough. You know, like
Velma looks like Billie Eilish as a cartoon. So, no problem there.
Billy, hey, Billy, everyone, like I said, can fit into wherever you need to fit into there. Okay. Scooby is Hampshire College, right? The hippie dippy drug school, right? Everyone out there taking taking the LSD, taking the mushrooms, all that fun stuff. Cause they were doing, you knew Scooby was far more into it. Shaggy is good old UMass Amherst, the party school. He's out there, so that's how Shaggy and Scooby met, right? They just, they really were. Shaggy was definitely in Southwest, out in the towers out there. This, by the way, for our listeners who might be not in this part of the country, this is the part of the school that, at least as legend goes, they that some of the idiots got some of the bros got a cow from one of the surrounding fields and let it up in the tower, and then it wouldn't go back down, so they tossed it out a window. So that's what you're dealing with there when you're coming in there. Daphne is Mount Holyoke. All right, still a girls' school, but try to trim those young lady leaders of the future. Of the household, such as it is. And Fred is the most upstanding of them all. Amherst College. So there you go. Wake up, sheeple. It's all about college indoctrination. That's what was really going on in Scooby-Doo. Okay. All right. It's all about the 5 colleges. You see that? That leads back to the Lizard and Illuminati. And then the next thing you know, you're eating adrenochrome and you're storming the Capitol. Okay. All right.
Yeah. See, 2 things. One, people need to know what he's talking about is Western Massachusetts. That is almost a different state. And
it is
2,
a different state.
Since the 90s, I would argue Fred is definitely UMass Amherst.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's changed around a little bit. Yeah, at least I was taking from the edge.
Just the guy who's going to throw the cow out of the towers is going to look like Fred.
Probably
since the 90s. That's all I'm pointing out.
Bruh.
I mean, I could.
Bruh a lot.
Yeah, I mean, if you can, but I don't know, man. I just can't see. I can't see anybody that as groovy as these people coming from New England.
Well, there's that too.
Oh,
I don't
wow.
think it.
I mean,
I don't think it ever happened, but I'd call that.
Okay.
I'd definitely call
That's-
that all that accurate.
that's what they want you to believe, Greg.
I mean,
You're not being a free thinker enough. You're not questioning things enough, Greg. You're just
course not.
accepting what the corporations tell you.
Of course
the
not. I'm a New
government.
Englander.
yeah, that's why
Well,
I'm wearing
now
a
that-
winter hat inside.
Now that
Yeah.
we have brought it full circle back to the shape wizard Illuminati that are really in charge of Scooby Doo. I'm gonna gavel this meeting and bring us back down and ask you, to take your conspiracy theory and head right on over to Apple Podcasts and iTunes. Rate and review us. Help us get on that conspiracy algorithm. Take us on up into the stratosphere.
That would be so much easier. That's the sad thing.
That would be the thing. Yeah, maybe
It
we should just start a
seriously would.
conspiracy show. Just that's it. We just got to
Yeah.
start. We got to write our conspiracy. Just make sure we
Right.
get that. Make sure we get that shit tight. But
So
we definitely appreciate it. Follow us on the socials. We are the Steam Gentlemen on Facebook. We are Do You Even Steam Bro on Instagram. And yeah, I don't know. Do your own research and find us on TikTok or Twitter. It's one of those things, man. Do your research, man. Find the information. It's out there if you want it.
it's on
but
the internet.
It's on the internet. Well,
It's
speaking
on the
of it,
internet.
technically, so are we. So,
Yeah,
Greg,
it's on the internet.
Starchild, tell us what you got going on for the rest of the day, week, month, year, whatever period of time you want.
I think I touched on this the other day. Other than the Nutella infused, the weed infused Nutella, which I again can't recommend enough. This week we're just gonna start packing up summer, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
summer's over.
It's that
It is
time.
that.
We're packing up summer, y'all. It's over.
It is fall.
If
No,
you, if you didn't have fun, you fucked up because it's done.
It's true. Well,
Yeah.
I hope
'Cause-
you enjoy the coolest summer of the rest of your life. But I'm
Yeah,
here.
'cause
I got my fall colors on, so yeah, I'm good to go.
Because people from
Guess you were enjoying that
our
in
listeners,
June.
our listeners from all over the world don't understand. Like the good weather is, doesn't last very long here in New England. So putting all of the furniture from outside away, putting the grill away, it's tough.
It's tough. Yeah. Now, New England is many things, but California, it ain't. There is no two ways about that.
Don't like the weather. Wait 5 minutes.
It's
It'll
why they're
change.
so groovy.
That's it. Well,
Yeah.
with that, I'm gonna bring it back over to Fall Lover, pumpkin spice latte, and yoga pant guy here.
What?
Moving it on over to Rashaun Smith, the three of clubs. What do you got going on aside from PSLs?
I mean, totally unnecessary. I would like to point out that we are 3 40+ idiots talking to each other on a weekly basis. If we tried to make a cartoon and the main characters were teenagers, I'm willing to bet we're gonna fucking miss the mark pretty damn hard. Probably
yeah.
similar to the two individuals. It is kind of funny how we also think that these two guys knew teenagers at that time, like really understood the world of them when they're just two adults who are like, hey, this is what we're doing. We're just gonna kick it out.
Yeah.
So I think we can also pull back a little bit from understanding who these individuals are, because again, they're also just written characters. Fucking relax, everyone. And the other part is I want to shout out to my parents, because Velma, even before I saw Scooby Doo, throughout my life, she was always someone that my parents used to always say, like, oh yeah, no, she has a roommate, and then just would leave it at that, because that was the best equipped.
Of course, she had a roommate.
She got a roommate.
That was the most equipped they were to kind of talk about it. God bless them for the early 80s to be able to talk about it. So growing up, I just sort of not assumed that. I was always hoping I would meet people like one of my best friends who would be out and about and proud and actually had better game than me. It was kind of embarrassing. She would fucking crush it while I was hanging out with her. I'd be like, you gotta ease up and let me do something. She's like, no, you suck. Dude, her game was so strong. It was hard. But anyway, she was a womanizer. I love her to death. I mean, she's a great mother now.
That's
but
fantastic.
She was a womanizer.
Right.
I was like, you were awful. But
Oh, please.
so
You can
It
totally
leads
be a
to-
womanizer as a woman.
Oh, totally.
That's-
And
yeah,
it
that's the thing.
leads to me being thankful, and it's sort of similar connection to the woman who one of the last surviving women of the all women baseball team, who finally came out, felt comfortable enough to come out and be who she is. Because for most of us, similar to Velma, we knew we didn't care because we just want you to be happy and be who you want to be.
Be happy, live your truth. Absolutely, that's the way it is. I think that's really what it's all about.
Because
when it
she
comes
had a
down to-
roommate for a long ass
for a
time.
long time. That was a
long time.
long roommate situation going on there.
Mhm.
That lease agreement was strong.
Yeah.
That was literally live that truth. Live long and prosper. We all know what is out there. But whatever mystery mobile you're in, go on out there. Be your own bad self. Don't let anybody else tell you differently. Go on and be with it. But until the next time we come back, this is Josh the Birdman telling you to keep your heat up and keep your head of steam on.